So now let's look into receiving responses. We will deep dive into the receiving responses, what all it consists of, what will what how does a response body look like, and the complete information about that. It's receiving responses. The postman response viewer helps you to visualize and check the correctness of API responses. An API response consists of the response body, headers, and the HTTP status code. A response body, so headers, test results, and response code, and network information such as SSL verification errors, and response time, response size, and saving responses. All those activities we are gonna do in 2.3 receiving responses section. So first let's begin with the response body. So the postman body tab gives you several tools to help you understand the response quickly. You can view the body in 4 types of views. I'm gonna show you that. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is our. So let me bring it up. Yeah, it's fine. So let me come to the parameters. Yeah, let me keep it here, and here I'll make it a little bigger. And this is our response body, or response window, or response. In this response pane, you will see the first tab, that is body. Okay, so in this body tab gives you several tools to help you understand the response quickly. So we can view the body in 4. Here we have the 4 views. One is pretty, second one is raw, and third one is preview, and the fourth one is visualize. So finding items, so note that we have to give the content type. Header indicates that the response is an image, so postman will detect the render the image automatically. If you mention, let me go to the headers. So inside the headers, here you see that content type, it's let me hide this. Okay, so this is default one. No header. So let me scroll up a bit. Okay, hide auto generated headers. So 6 hidden. So these are all content type we have created na. So this, if you type content type as image, you see that image gif, image jpeg, image pjpeg, image png, image svg plus xml, or image tiff. So this image will be generated based on the content type if that response is proper. Okay, so let me delete these two which are not required at all, and now let me send. So pretty, we got the data, preview and visualize. So but this is how you can generate an image type, but we need to have a respective tools. So pretty, the first option we will see. Yeah, this is a pretty. Let me scroll up again, and a pretty view formats JSON or XML, anything is fine. So we'll click on XML. This is also, this is, and HTML, and text, a simple text, and finally auto. It's again get back to the, it will take back us to the JSON. So like inside pretty viewer highlighted, and selecting them can load a get a request in the postman with the URL. So then the second option that we have here is raw. Inside the after pretty we have raw. So the raw view is a large text area with the response body, it can indicate whether your response is minified or not. So, and after that, we have HTML. So sorry, we have a preview, and in preview, so the preview view renders the response in a sandboxed iframe. Let me select this. Okay, this is a preview. Some web frameworks by default written HTML errors. So that's the reason we use a preview type, and preview can be especially helpful for debugging in those cases. So due to the iframe sandbox restrictions, the JavaScript and images are turned off in the iframe. So for binary response types, you can select the send and download to save the response locally. And the final one is visualize. The visualize view renders the data in the API response according to visualization code that you add to the request test. For to add, we can click on this. You see that set up the visualizers for this request. To visualize responses, add a pm.visualizer set pm.visualizer, that's a postman module dot visualizer dot set, that's a function method. Okay, this set method library, a module and a function method to test or pre-request scripts for your request. Okay, this is what we have to add. This piece of code should be add pre-request scripts for our request. So if you want to learn more about visualizing responses, just click here and you will find the visualizing responses clearly. So the Postman visualizer provides a programmable way to visualize represent the request responses. Okay, just scroll down and you'll find the more information. You can go through this video visualizing response data, and this is what the code that you have to use. pm.visualizer.set vo method accept handlebars template. Let me copy this. So rendering HTML, for example, for an example, basic visualizer in action opens the following request in Postman. Let me run this. Postman from web or window. I'll go with the Postman for from window. Allows open import collection. Import to the API exploring universe and import to that space to my API exploring universe workspace. It's taking some time to import. Let's wait. So we are importing a collection from there. Okay, it's taking more time. Let's wait for a few more seconds. Okay, it's taking more time. Let me cancel this. That's okay. Okay, we'll look into this later and we will move ahead. Okay, so now we will look into the cookies in this workbench. You just we can inspect cookies sent by the server in the cookies tab. So let me see that. This is where you will find the cookies, in the response. This is the response. We're talking about the response pane inside the response. We're talking about the response pane in our workbench. So let me click on cookies, and you should see no cookies received from the server. So all your cookies and their associated domains will appear here. So now let me get into the other API, real case API. Let me click on cookies. So here also I did not receive any cookies from the server. So I'll go to the another API, and let me click here. So let me scroll down a bit more. Yeah, that's fine. So now let me click on cookies here. So no cookies from here also. That's okay. Sometimes you'll receive cookies if it's provided by the sender, by our receiver, by our okay server. So then we have headers. Let me get back to our API exploring universe, and then yeah, okay. So we have headers. The next one, let me scroll, let me make it bigger. So headers section. Headers are displayed as key value pairs under the headers tab. However, over the information icon, just click on here, and I'll scroll up. We have 16 headers with us. So when we click on over the information icon, you don't need to click on, just hover over the information icon next to the header name or header key to get a description of the header according to the HTTP specification. So date, a general header containing the date and time the message was sent. And what's the content type? You just check the content type. It indicates the resources media type. And we have a transfer encoding, that specifying the form of encoding used to transfer the entity to the user. Then connection type, a general header specifying whether the current network connection will stay open once the current transaction finishes or not. Then export by, so specifies the technology supporting the web application. It's made on ASP.NET, PHP, JBoss. And we have the more information. You can cross check each and every key value pair of headers from the response. I'm talking about the response only. So now let's get into the real case example. That's not Volvo API. So I'll click on my workspace, then go to this one, and let me click on here. Okay, anyway, it's we did not use the author, the wrong auth we used. Let me click it, inherit auth from there, and send a request. Yeah, we received that. That's it, we got that. So we have sent a request to the an actual production level, a secure server of our company. Okay, and I can't show it, so that's why I'm not showing. I'm adding the things. Okay, that's fine. Here, this is our response, and here you can see body and cookies, and you should see the headers. Again, I have few how many headers? 15 key value pairs in our header section. So first one, content type is specific to our company, that's application. This is it's specific to our API. And then content length, this is too big, you should see that. And connection is keep alive. Let me select, it's a general header specifying whether the current network connection will stay open once the current transaction finishes or not. Then as usual, we saw the date, then okay, and remapped connection. And what does this mean? Custom header. Then this is also custom header. These are specific to our company, so I don't want to explain this. Then vary, this determines how much future request headers to decide whether the cached response can be used rather than requesting a fresh one. And access control request method, this is okay, the same thing, because these are all of custom ones. Then let us scroll down more, and all you'll have a very, very, very. Okay. Then remaptate, Xcache, via and via cloudfront.net. So that's the information about that. Okay. So that's about all the headers. And the next section that we have here is test results. So of course we do not provide any piece of code to the test. So if the API request you are viewing had any test scripts, the results are displayed in the test results tab. Of course we do not have any tests. So here we have to give the test, any test. So if we have a test snippet, let me copy. So get environment variable global. Okay, status code contains strings and JSON value check. Let me click on status code. Okay, we got that pm.test, and then status code is 200 and function. So let's click on that. Let's send a request and wait for the response in the test results. Okay, and here is that test passed and the status code is 200. So that's how a test script that you have provided, the test PM script that you have provided in the tests can be, the results of the test can be checked in the response pane of test results tab. Then we have the more information on right portion. So I'll zoom it a little more bigger so that it will be much clearer. You see that this portion I'm talking about, this is called a network information. A network information. Postman displays network information when your API returns a response. Hover over the network. You see that? This is the network icon. Hover over the network icon to get the local and remote IP addresses for the request you have sent. You see that local address that you can see here, 192.total4 octets, and a remote address is 18 155 14 and 15. So that's the transaction has taken place between local to remote, and that's the network information that you can find out there. Then in addition to that, we have few more things there. So when you make a HTTPS request, the network icon includes a padlock. You see that here you have a padlock. When you hover over the icon, the network information will show some more, including certificate verification details. You see that we have certificate CN, that's this is the certificate name, and after that issuer, this, okay, some other third party organization has issued this and validated it, and then it's valid until this time. It's a complete information about that. Now let's get into the another workspace. Workspace, and let me come to here. Let me bring it up. Let me recall this. Send it, and here is the information. Even this one is also secured one and local, and here the local remains same because I'm the only one sending the request from my machine through my postman, whereas the remote address has been changed from that endpoint to this endpoint. So with that it should be clear. So then we have a TLS protocol cipher name, and then as usual certificate CN, and issuer is also different. This was issued by the Cloudflare and valid until this time. Okay, so that's about the network information. And we have SSL verification errors. So if you have SSL verification enabled in Postman's global settings, then only this can be used. For now, we won't be discussing about that. SSL verification error, we'll see later. So after that, we will look into the response code. That is pretty much important for us. It's a bare minimum thing to be understood. So that's why we are going to discuss here. So Postman displays the response code returned by the API. Hover over the response code to get a short description of the code and what it means. So what it's saying here, we got the 200 and space OK. So this means this is a standard response for successful HTTP requests. The actual response will depend on the request method used. In a GET request, the response will contain an entity corresponding to the requested resource. In a post request, the response will contain an entity describing or containing the result of the action. And similarly, what I'm gonna do is I'll put one and send. So this time we got the empty one here, and here we got the 404 not found. What does this mean? The request resource could not be found but may be available again in the future. So subsequent request by the client are permissible. So that's what the error. So I'll show you one more one more response code here. So what I'm going to do is I'll change this auth authorization. From here to I'll put some OAuth 1.0 and I'll call this, and let's see what's going to happen. And it's 401 unauthorized this time. This time it's unauthorized. What does this mean? Similar to 403 forbidden, but the difference is specifically for use when authentication is possible but has failed. But this time authentication is possible but you have failed. But that means you have given a wrong cred or wrong auth method. Either it could be a wrong cred or you have used a wrong authentication method. So when authentication is possible but has failed or not yet been provided, the response must include a www authenticate header field containing a challenge applicable to the request resource code. These are some of the response code that we regularly exposed. So then we have the response time. Here is that. So 76 bytes. So response. So sorry, this is a response time. Let me scroll this time, and here it took 1222 milliseconds. So Postman automatically calculates the time in milliseconds to milliseconds it took for the response to arrive from the server. This information can be useful for some preliminary performance testing. However, when you hover over the response time for a graph with information on how long each event in the process took. So if you see, it has begun a socket initialization between both. It took 0.9 milliseconds. Then DNS lookup, that's domain naming system lookup, because we are using a domain and subdomain. Obviously, it has to go for the DNS lookup. So then it went for the DNS lookup. It took time, the 453 milliseconds, and after that, it has gone for the TCP handshake. That's a protocol handshake between the both. So protocol has been in my machine to the API server. Both is handshaken. Then SSL handshake, that's certificate, secure certificate handshake, that's also done. Then a transfer started. Then transfer started, and then finally download 2.13 millisecond. For process it took 0.06 milliseconds. However, it's been failed. So now we'll change the auth to the inherit auth from. Now we will click and we'll see. And here is that. It took 1496 milliseconds, and here is the complete information. So socket initialization, let me, yeah, socket initialization 0.47 milliseconds. DNS lookup no more required. Cache, directly use it from cache. Then to prepare it took 5.61 millisecond. To process it took 0.1 second. So this is the preparation that happens before we get the data. So from the socket initialization, DNS lookup, TCP handshake, SSL handshake, and then transfer started, and finally download. So this is the overall process it took from here to here. Okay, so that's all about the request time, sorry, response time. Then we have a response size here. So response size, it's 32.68 kilobytes, and body is 32.06 kilobytes. And so in that response size, body is 32.06 kilobyte, whereas only headers are 634 bytes. Total we have 8 headers. So Postman displays the approximate size of the response. However, when you hover over the response size, we'll get the breakdown by body and header sizes. You see that? Complete information about that. Then the next option that we have is to save the responses. So if a request has been saved in a collection, you can save responses for that request also. Once the response has been returned, we have to do a simple activity, that's just click on save response, nothing much. So I'll click on save response. Then it's asking select save as an example to save the response as an example that you can access later. That's one way. And second thing that we have is save to a file. When you save to a file, this will be saved as the response as a JSON file. Let me click on save so that it will come here. So I can simply say this is a driver's response. That's it. I'll click on save and it will be saved as a JSON file. See, downloaded response. That's the two ways of saving the responses. I'm specifically talking about the response. So that's it. We have covered response body, headers, test results, response time, and network information, response code, response size, and saving those responses either as an example or a file.